Long ago in the lands of the Fertile Crescent, where the great rivers Tigris and Euphrates flowed, people told stories of powerful beings who ruled the waters. These were not ordinary creatures, but gods in the shape of fish, wise and ancient, who held the secrets of life and creation. The people of Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers, worshipped these fish gods, believing they brought wisdom, protection, and the gift of civilization itself. One of the most famous fish gods was Dagon, a mighty deity with the body of a man and the tail of a fish. The people built great temples in his honor, towering structures called ziggurats that reached toward the sky. They believed Dagon taught them how to farm the land, how to build cities, and how to live in peace. Fishermen prayed to him for good catches, and farmers asked him to bless their fields with water. Dagon was a kind god, but he was also fierce when angered. The stories say that when men became greedy or cruel, he would send floods to wash away their pride. But Dagon was not the only fish god of the Fertile Crescent. There was also Oannes, a being who rose from the depths of the Persian Gulf. Unlike Dagon, Oannes was fully a fish, but with the head of a man and a voice like thunder. The ancient texts say that Oannes came from the sea each morning to walk upon the land, teaching the people the arts of writing, mathematics, and law. When the sun set, he returned to the water, disappearing beneath the waves until the next dawn. The people called him the bringer of knowledge, and without him they believed they would still live like wild animals, without culture or wisdom. There were other, lesser fish gods as well, spirits of the rivers and lakes who watched over the smaller waters. Some were gentle, guiding lost travelers to safety. Others were mischievous, pulling fishermen's nets empty or tipping boats in playful tricks. But all of them were respected, for the people knew that water was life. And those who ruled the waters held power over life and death. One story tells of a great drought that struck the land. The rivers shrank, the crops withered, and the people grew hungry. The priests prayed to Dagon, but no rain came. Desperate, the king sent his bravest warrior, a man named Enlil, to seek Oannes in the depths of the sea. Enlil sailed for many days until he reached the middle of the gulf, where the water was darkest. There he poured offerings of oil and grain into the waves and called Oannes' name. For 3 days and nights nothing happened. But on the 4th morning the water began to churn, and Oannes rose from the depths. His scales shimmered like gold in the sunlight, and his eyes held the wisdom of ages. "Why have you called me Landwalker?" he asked. Enlil bowed low and spoke of the suffering of his people. Oannes listened, then nodded. "The gods are angry because men have forgotten gratitude. They take the water for granted and waste its gifts." Enlil begged for mercy, promising that the people would change. Oannes was silent for a long time. Then he said, "Return to your king. Tell him to gather his people by the great river at dawn. They must bring offerings of humility, simple things made with their own hands." Enlil did as he was told, and the next morning the people came with baskets of bread, clay figures, and songs of praise. They knelt by the river and prayed for forgiveness. As the sun rose higher, the earth trembled. The people watched in awe as the water began to rise, not in a destructive flood, but in a gentle swell. The rivers filled, the wells bubbled with fresh water, and the first drops of rain fell from the sky. The drought was over. From that day on, the people never forgot the power of the fish gods. They built more temples, held festivals in their honor, and always remembered to give thanks for the gift of water. But as time passed, empires rose and fell. New gods replaced the old, and the stories of the fish gods faded. The ziggurats crumbled, and the names of Dagon and Oannes were whispered only by the oldest priests. Yet even now, if you stand by the banks of the Tigris or Euphrates on a quiet evening, when the water is still and the sky is painted with the colors of sunset, you might hear a faint sound, like a voice beneath the waves. Some say it is the fish gods, still watching, still waiting for the day when men will remember them once more. And so the legend lives on, not in stone or gold, but in the flowing waters that gave life to the first civilizations. The fish gods of the Fertile Crescent may sleep, but they are not forgotten. Their stories are carved not in stone, but in the very rivers that shaped the world.